shit was different and it was different fast. And then you got people calling you every day and you got comments on the internet saying you're gonna get a RICO, and I don't even think people know how serious that is.
No, I don't think they do.
You know what I'm saying? Like, that shit ain't nothing to play with. That shit ain't nothing to, like, that shit serious, especially when you
When we dropped the first video on this situation, we thought we had the full story. The nightclub, the argument, the shooting, the NFL player. We thought that was it.
When we dropped the first video on this situation, we thought we had the full story. The nightclub, the argument, the shooting, the NFL player. We thought that was it. We were wrong. Because since that video dropped, new details have come out that completely changed the scope of what we're dealing with. Details from the actual police report, forensic evidence, witness statements that the news didn't air, and then, on top of all of that, word started spreading through the streets about exactly who Keion White is connected to and what that means for Lil Baby's situation going forward. I'm going to say this once, and I'm going to say it clearly. This is no longer just a story about a rap beef that got out of hand in a nightclub. This has become a multi-front crisis for one of the biggest names in hip-hop right now. The feds are watching, the NFL is watching, and now the California Bloods are watching too. Y'all need to hear all of this. Let's go. All right, for anybody who missed the first video and go watch it after this, here's the foundation real quick, but I'm adding the new details as we go because this is where it gets crazy. February 9th, Super Bowl weekend. San Francisco is absolutely electric. The city is buzzing because the 49ers just played. The whole Bay Area is in celebration mode, and everybody who is anybody is out that night. Keion White, defensive end for the 49ers, decides to host a private post-Super Bowl party. He books out the downstairs section of Dia Lounge on Mission Street. His event, his space, his guest list. Now here's the part that matters. Lil Baby had performed in San Francisco that same Sunday night. After his show, him and his entourage end up at the same venue, Dia Lounge. They're on the main floor, the public section. There are strippers, there's music, the whole thing. But at some point, somebody in Lil Baby's crew decides they want to get into the private downstairs party where Keion White is hosting. And that's where this whole thing unraveled. Lil Baby's entourage tried to push their way into a private event they were not invited to. White confronted them. An argument broke out, heated enough that a witness had to go upstairs to get a manager to come handle the situation. And while that witness was gone trying to get help, shots rang out downstairs. 2 shots according to one witness, 4 shots according to another. And when the dust settled, Keion White was on the ground with a bullet in his left leg. SFPD arrived at 4:06 in the morning. Officers walked into the club and found the party still partially going. People were still trying to leave, and they found White downstairs. Shot, but alive. That's the base story. But what came out of the actual police report is what took this to a completely different level. Now here's where people started connecting dots that the mainstream media completely glossed over, because the police report that got leaked to the Standard, and has since been widely reported, contains details that raise serious questions about exactly what went down in that downstairs room. Let me break it down for you. When investigators processed the scene, they found 2 shell casings on the floor, not 1. 2. And here's the part that should make everybody stop and think. One casing was a 9mm and the other was a .45 caliber. 2 completely different guns. That means either one person was carrying 2 different weapons and switched between them, which happens but is rare, or there were multiple people shooting. Multiple shooters in a private party downstairs at a nightclub at 4 a.m. On top of that, investigators recovered an abandoned cell phone from the scene. Gang, somebody left their phone at the crime scene. Think about what that means. Somebody was so shook, so caught off guard, so panicked when those shots went off that they ran out of that venue and left their entire digital life sitting on the floor for SFPD to pick up. Every text message, every contact, every location ping, every photo, all of it, just sitting there waiting for forensic investigators to plug it in and start pulling data. If that phone belongs to anyone connected to what happened, that is a catastrophic, career-ending, freedom-ending mistake, because phones don't lie in court. And then there's this. When police found Keion White and asked him directly who shot him, he refused to say anything, not a single word. The man took a bullet to the leg, went into surgery, came out successful, and still kept his mouth completely shut when law enforcement asked him to identify his shooter. That tells you everything. We'll come back to that. Here's the real tea that nobody in the sports media is touching, no cap. And I want to be precise about this because the implications are serious. Keion White didn't just materialize out of thin air into the NFL. Before the combine, before the draft, before the Patriots and the trade to the 49ers, Keion White came up in the streets. And the word that's been spreading hard in certain circles since this shooting became public is that White has deep ties to the California Bloods. Now I need y'all to understand what that means in the context of Bay Area street politics specifically, because this ain't LA Bloods where things operate one way. Bay Area blood culture is its own thing entirely. These are deeply rooted, highly organized people with long institutional memory and a very specific code about how violations get handled. And the code is real clear on one thing: you don't touch one of theirs and walk away like nothing happened. That's not how it works. That has never been how it works. What makes this even heavier is the fact that Keion White himself didn't talk to police. Think about that from the perspective of the streets. When a man who has every legal resource available to him, NFL franchise, lawyers, the whole infrastructure, chooses not to use the legal system to address what happened to him, that's a signal. That's a man saying he's not handling this through official channels. That's a man who knows his people are already aware of the situation and already moving accordingly. And here's the part that people outside of California street culture genuinely don't understand. Bay Area Bloods have a long reach and an even longer memory. They don't forget violations. They don't let things slide because time passes, or because cameras are watching, or because the person who got touched happens to be a public figure with a high-profile career. If anything, the public nature of this incident, the fact that it happened in front of witnesses, that it made national news, that it embarrassed somebody connected to them, makes the response more necessary, not less. The streets read that silence loud and clear, and the response that's been building since this story broke, it's not happening in courtrooms. Let me break this down for you because I don't think people fully understand how many fronts Lil Baby is dealing with simultaneously right now. This isn't one problem. This is 3 separate crises hitting at the same time. Problem number 1 is the feds. And I want to be crystal clear. Lil Baby has not been charged with anything. He is a free man. But the federal heat that's been building around him for the past couple of years did not just disappear because he changed his label name from 4PF to Glass Window. If anything, an incident like this, cross-state, involving a shooting with his name in the police report, with shell casings and an abandoned phone as physical evidence, gives investigators a fresh thread to pull. And federal investigators are very, very patient people. Problem number 2 is the NFL. The San Francisco 49ers had one of their players shot during Super Bowl weekend in their own market. The league office is not sitting back and letting this resolve itself quietly. There are internal investigations happening right now, security audits, conversations at the ownership level about what happened and why. The NFL protects its product and its players, and this type of incident generates the kind of attention the league absolutely does not want. Watch how the 49ers front office moves over the next few months, because their response to this will be very telling. Problem number 3, and this is the one that should genuinely be keeping Lil Baby up at night, is the streets. Specifically California streets, specifically people who are connected to Keion White and do not operate within any legal framework. Here's the thing about Bay Area street politics that outsiders consistently underestimate. Atlanta fame doesn't travel the same way out west. Being Lil Baby in Atlanta means something specific. Being Lil Baby in San Francisco means you're a celebrity who just violated somebody's space and put a bullet in somebody's leg. Those are 2 very different things, and the people around Keion White are not impressed by streams or Grammys. But here's where it gets crazy, because when you really analyze this situation top to bottom, the root of everything, the argument, the shooting, the whole chain of events, traces back to one thing: the entourage. Lil Baby did not book Dia Lounge. Lil Baby did not invite himself to Keion White's private party. From everything that's come out, the escalation started when people in his crew, his entourage, decided that being next to a big name gave them unlimited access. Decided that they could push into a space they weren't invited into. Decided that his celebrity was a passkey for any door in any building. And that mindset is what put a man in surgery. Now let me be real about something, because this is important. Lil Baby has clearly been making moves to clean up his situation for a while. The 4PF rebrand to Glass Window wasn't random. That was calculated. Quietly stepping back from certain people in his circle, that was calculated. He's been reading the room and trying to position himself smarter. Real talk. That shows more self-awareness than a lot of people in his position ever demonstrate. But here's the fatal flaw that this situation exposed in brutal fashion. You cannot rebrand your label and cut off 2 or 3 people and think you've solved the problem. The problem isn't 1 or 2 individuals. The problem is a culture within the entourage that hasn't changed. A culture where the name is used as a weapon to demand access. A culture where 15 or 20 people roll together and think that number plus that name means rules don't apply to them. You've got to swap out the entire way of moving, not just the faces, the whole operating system, because right now, every time Lil Baby walks into a room, he's not just walking in with his reputation on the line, he's walking in with the behavior of every single person in his crew on the line, and he cannot control what he doesn't correct. Now let me zoom out even further, because this situation doesn't exist in isolation. And if you've been following the landscape of federal prosecution around Atlanta rap over the last few years, what's happening right now should set off alarm bells. Fulton County, Georgia, the same prosecutorial environment that built the YSL RICO case. The case that went after Young Thug's entire world, used rap lyrics as evidence, pulled in multiple people from the same cultural ecosystem, and showed in real time exactly how far federal prosecutors are willing to go when they decide to build a case around a hip-hop network. Lil Baby comes from the same city, the same era, the same cultural DNA as everyone who got swept up in that wave. His name has circulated in those conversations for years, and every single incident that adds his name to a police report, every shell casing, every witness statement, every surveillance clip is another potential thread in a potential federal tapestry. What people don't fully appreciate is that RICO cases aren't built overnight. They're built over years. Investigators collect incidents, collect associations, collect patterns. And then one day the indictment drops and everybody acts shocked even though the signs were there the whole time. And the Lil Durk situation is playing out in real time right now, and it should be a wake-up call for everybody watching. The federal government has demonstrated over and over again that it does not care how many Grammys you have or how many Billboard #1s are on your resume. When they decide to come, they come heavy. And here's the part that stings most. If Lil Baby catches charges related to this or anything connected to it, the industry eats. His label keeps his catalog. His music keeps generating revenue. His contract has clauses that protect the label even if the artist ends up incarcerated. The industry has a documented history of profiting from the downfall of the very artist they claim to support. They are not motivated to tell him the truth about his situation, but I will. Let me come back to something because I don't think we fully unpacked what Keion White not talking to police actually means in the context of everything we just broke down. This man was shot in his own private party by someone connected to an entourage that forced their way into his space. He went into surgery. He came out, and when SFPD asked him directly to identify who shot him, he said nothing. Now, if you look at that purely from the outside, you might think he's just being cautious. Maybe he didn't see who did it clearly. Maybe his lawyers told him to stay quiet. Sure, all of that is possible. But the streets read that silence completely differently. In the culture that Keion White comes from, not talking to police after you've been violated isn't weakness. It's a declaration. It's saying the legal system is not the mechanism through which this gets resolved. It's telling your people that the channel is open and the matter is in their hands now. And his people heard that loud and clear. The California Bloods connected to White are not waiting on a police report. They're not waiting on an arrest. They're not waiting on a press conference. They've been moving since the night it happened. And the question of what that response looks like when it surfaces, where it surfaces, and how it affects everyone involved is something Lil Baby and his camp better be taking extremely seriously right now. You got lucky in San Francisco, real talk. You ran into the one individual who was disciplined enough and connected enough to handle it through proper channels on his end. But luck has an expiration date, and the Super Bowl is in Los Angeles next year. Here's where I leave y'all, and I need everybody to really sit with this because the implications go beyond just Lil Baby. What we are watching unfold in real time is the consequence of existing in the space between two worlds without fully committing to either one. Lil Baby is a Grammy-winning, Billboard-charting, generational talent. He has every resource, every opportunity, every platform available to build something that lasts for decades. But as long as the entourage moves like the streets and he moves like a superstar, there will always be nights like February 9th. Nights where the gap between who he's trying to be and how his people still operate creates a collision that he can't control and can't walk away from clean. Three fronts: the feds building patience, the NFL watching closely, and California Bloods who take violations personally and don't resolve them in courtrooms. Any one of those three fronts alone would be enough to derail a career. All three at the same time? That's a situation that demands immediate, serious action, not a label rebrand and a couple of quiet unfollows on Instagram. No timetable has been given for when Keion White returns to the field. The investigation is still ongoing. No suspects have been named. But the absence of official resolution does not mean nothing is happening. It means the resolution is happening somewhere else. If I'm Lil Baby right now, I'm not just thinking about who to cut from the squad. I'm asking myself a fundamental question about what I'm actually willing to lose. Because the way things are set up right now, the answer to that question might get made for him before he gets a chance to make it himself. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Does this escalate or get resolved quietly? What do you think the next move looks like? And go watch the first video if you haven't. Everything here hits different once you have that context. Subscribe if you're new here. We don't miss and we don't cap. Stay safe out there.